Hey, I'm Dude Guy, and I made a little sculpture which I'd like to show you the time lapse of. And I figured that I might as well talk over it. It's probably going to be more entertaining than just having some random royalty-free music playing. So I'll just play it back, watch it along with you, and see if I have anything to say about it. Maybe I won't, I don't know. Maybe there was going to be long pauses and uncomfortable silences, and I'll ask about the weather or something. But let's hope not. Let's hope I have a lot of things to talk about. Anyways, let's skip the introductions because according to my calculations, this is going to be like an 18-minute video, probably more like 20 now. But anyways, let's watch now. But yeah, so the thing that kind of sprung this sculpture into being was me trying out the dynamic topology, because I normally almost never use dynamic topology. I usually use the voxel remesher. But this time I said I'll try it out because a friend of mine who is kind of new to Blender said, oh, Blender has this, and they called it Sculptis Pro or something, which I'm not familiar with. It sounds like its own program, Sculptris Pro, but it's not. Apparently it's just a feature in ZBrush. And so they were amazed to see that Blender has that. And I'm not that amazed. For me, the voxel remesher is great. You know, it gets the job done and it's way more performant. But I said, you know what, I'll try it out. Maybe this dynamic topology thing is actually good. And yeah, it's all right. I kind of liked it. Anyways, started out from a sphere. It's really handy with the snake hook brush, because you can pull out a piece of the mesh and it keeps remeshing it as you're pulling it out. So you could technically, you know, pull out this long ass tentacle forever and it would keep remeshing and remeshing. It's really pretty great for that kind of thing. I would say the verdict for me is that it's pretty handy for like lower poly count when you're just starting out your sculpt. But it really falls behind in usefulness when you get to higher poly counts, because it really tanks your performance. Anything that's getting close to like 1 million or something, it really tanks your performance. And when you have that kind of density on your mesh, you don't really need, I feel like you don't really need the constant remeshing, because you're mostly working on surface details and stuff like that. You're not making significant changes to your mesh when you reach that kind of poly count. So the ever remeshing dynamic topology is not really useful anymore. So I think I'm gonna use it for starting out new sculpts, but probably stop when I get to a higher poly count. It's pretty handy though, and it's really cool to watch it, you know, work its magic. Anyway, what do we have? He's getting arms. The arms don't look very good for now. It's one of those things I should have started off with a better block out, because this mushy mesh that I extruded with the snake hook, it's not really doing a great job. Oh, first Blender crash. I think it's the only one. I think I was trying to smooth the mesh with dynamic topology on, but also the mesh that I was sculpting on had a multi-user mesh data block. So these things happen, you know. It's all right. The autosave in Blender is pretty good. It's never failed me so far. I've never lost too much progress. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do, and I think I realized it pretty successfully, you know. What came out is pretty much what I had imagined, with the only difference being both of these you know, zombie looking guys, they're both masculine looking. I was imagining that the top one would be more feminine, but it didn't really turn out that way. And by the time I realized that I was doing it differently, I didn't really want to change it anymore. It's like a happy accident, I guess. And how much more feminine can you make a skeleton? I think you can. There's a bunch of ways in which you can make, give it more of a feminine frame, maybe narrower shoulders and bone structure and stuff. There are ways you can make a skeleton look girly, but not many, so yeah. Yeah, the dynamic topology was really fun to sculpt with at the lower poly count, but yeah, when you get to like higher numbers, like when you're getting to the millions, it's not even really worth having on, because every stroke is going to take so long to happen. You might as well just use the voxel remesher. But yeah, I'll use it more in the future. It's all right. The inspiration for this sculpt was I like a band called Swans, and I was listening to the Sears album, which actually it's the first I ever listened to from them, and they have a song. I really like, when I'm working on stuff, I really like listening to them. Gets me in the zone. But they have a song that says, my life pours into your mouth, my it's not life. Well, it is life, but only sometimes. My life pours into your mouth. Anyway, something like that. And I was listening to that and I said, man, this would make for a pretty badass sculpture. So I made it. And it turned out, yeah, like I said, it's well realized. Sometimes you have an idea which is cool, but you don't have the skill level to carry it out, so it's doomed to only ever exist in your head. But this time I had an idea, and I had the skill to carry it out, and it turned out pretty much exactly how I imagined it, save for a few differences, but so that was cool. I like this almost cradling embrace that he's got on this guy. You don't really know. Is this love? I don't know. He certainly doesn't look like he's mad. Look how gently he holds him by the shoulder and everything. Here I have to open his mouth, obviously, because that's, his life pours into your mouth, as the song goes. So I had to open his mouth. Bunch of masking. Oh yeah, here you see me mask, and I can pull out the tongue. And that's a great example of dynamic topology working really well, because you can pull out the tongue, you don't have to worry about geometry or anything. Just do it. I wonder, maybe I'm talking too much about technical things which don't really apply to most people that might watch, right? To you, what the fuck does dynamic topology mean? Nothing, right? Maybe I should stick to talking about the artistic sensibilities on display here. Anyway, here's the life. And they're pouring it. Maybe they take turns afterwards, I don't know. They could take turns. I don't think they would take turns. Unless maybe you consider that whatever the first guy is doing is converting the other. Maybe that's the kind of dynamic that's happening. Here I play around with some lights, but in the end I don't really stick with this this shading. I haven't, for the sculptures I've been making, I almost always prefer to render them with the Workbench engine. Just the regular Blender viewport nowadays. Because having to... okay, episode 2. Quick. There we go. This was the next day. A day had passed between those two. In total, the sculpture took me about 2 hours and a half to make. 2.5 hours. The hand looks a bit odd, and I think it's going to continue looking odd until the end. But it's alright. You can see Pinky's got a little personality, you know. He's got his pinky's a little bit, you know, doing the thing that pinkies do. And rendering and with either Eevee or Cycles is just a lot of work. You have to put lights and make it look good and everything. Whereas the Workbench, it displays the sculpt as it is. You know, it's if what you're trying to show off is your sculpting, it's really the best. The best is to just have a matte cap, you know. So I played around with some lights, but I don't think it's any good. Just refining the hands a little bit. Oh yeah, the skull. It was almost only like really low resolution, you know, mesh, because of the way that dynamic topology works. If you never sculpt on something, it's just going to stay the way it is. So the entire head was this really low poly mesh. Here I put some details on the hand, but maybe I shouldn't have. I think the gentle, flat, sort of cupping hand that I had before looked good too. Maybe this is too much detail. Sometimes less is more, right? Anyway, I also don't use this channel much. I know every once in a while I get a comment about how you know, my channel's dead or something, which I appreciate that some of you even care enough to leave a comment about it, but I've just been busy with stuff, you know. Some weird thing happened here with the mesh. It became like there was a hole inside of it, and there was some like loose geometry, so I ended up like remeshing it with the voxel remesher. I don't know what happened, but yeah, anyways, my channel is pretty dormant, but that's because, you know, I'm not really a YouTuber. I've been busy with other stuff. If you follow me on Twitter, I post on there more often than I do YouTube. It's Dude Guy 3D, same as here. But I've been making models for games. I've managed to trick people into giving me money in exchange for models. So that's what I've been up to. It's a pretty cool gig. I'm feeling lucky. But yeah, I've been busy with that stuff, and I suppose, you know, I could record the things that I do and upload them, but whenever I have a OBS recording, it becomes, the experience is a bit different than just working on something. Now you're thinking about the people that are going to be watching you later, right? So you're thinking, how do I do this in a way where I don't have to correct anything? You know, I don't have to, because it's pretty common in art that you're going to work on something and then you don't like it, you throw it away, right? But now when you've got OBS recording, you're thinking, okay, how do I do this in a way where I don't have to throw away any of my work? And it's very distracting, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Recording things when you're working on something, it is not helping the process at all. It's the opposite, actually. It's very distracting, and it's not helping creatively, it's not helping at all. So I'm not, I don't really want to be a YouTuber. I would rather get good at this, which is what I do, right? The YouTube stuff, I don't really care that much. It's not, for me, it's a secondary thing. So if you get to the point where it becomes distracting to what you're doing, then there's no point in doing it, you know? It's a waste. Oh yeah, here I stand him up because it's a bit difficult sculpting a guy when he's like laying down. So I stood him up and he looks different. What happened? Oh, nothing. Blender crashed. Wait, so it crashed 2 times. Never mind. Blender crashed twice. Which is every time it's happened, it's because I've had 2 objects with the same mesh data block. So that's obviously a sensitive area for Blender. Sculpting on a high poly mesh with 2 objects with the same mesh data block. Yeah, okay, I get it. It's pretty cool to be able to do that though. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I don't want making videos to distract me from the important stuff. Because videos suck, man. Videos are just videos. Who cares about videos? Yeah, you know, it's not, I don't want to be good at editing. I want to be good at this stuff that I'm making here. And so if I feel that making videos is distracting me from what I really want to do, then I'm just not going to do it. But, you know, obviously sometimes I can make a little 2-hour sculpture like this one, and yeah, I'll upload it. But let me know how you guys feel about this format with me talking. I know I don't think I've ever talked on this channel before. Maybe on my speedrunning videos, but nobody's really seen those. Yeah, so I'm texturing him. Blender has a paintbrush that has settings for like color mixing and stuff, and it's really, really handy. It looks really cool when you're mixing colors together. And you saw me earlier, I applied a coat to the whole guy that made it look like the crevices were getting darker and stuff. That's because Blender, you can use the auto masking cavity feature, and that's what I did. I applied it to the whole guy. That's what I did to the bottom guy. I haven't painted it on him yet, but I did paint the cavity with the cavity mask, and that's how he ends up looking like this, right? So it all the crevices I'm able to paint into, and you can also do the opposite, paint only on the parts that stick out. So that's what I did here. And once that's done, then I can, you know, paint the character a bit more purposely, right? Purposely, I don't know. Big pause here. I don't know what I was doing. Okay, here we go. I'm back. I'm gonna paint on the bottom guy, and what I'll do is the coat of paint that I apply on top, I'll have it's not full opacity, so the cavity that I painted is still kind of there, you know, it's still visible over the coat of paint that I apply on top, even if only really subtly, but it's still there. And yeah, the painting is really cool, how the paint can mix and stuff. It's really sick. Blender is a really cool program, and it's free. It's fucking free. Here we go with the workbench renderer, playing around with the settings here. I think I'm done with it here. Yeah. You can see me playing around with the lights here. But this is cool, but it doesn't look as good as it does. It's different, you know, it shows less of the mesh. Anyway, so that's the video. I'm going to show you the mesh in greater detail because that zoomed by really quickly. Anyway, this here is the raw color with nothing else on it. So this is what I painted. You can see some of the cavity stuff is visible through it all, more or less, you know. And let's have a look in rendered view. Boom, here we go. One weakness that I have is I never know how I really want to render the thing. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, it looks better without a shadow, but then I'll look at it long enough without it, and when I turn it back on, I'm like, oh shit, this looks way better, never mind. But yeah, it's hard to pick, really. So let me show you. This is the mesh without any paint on it. It looks cool like this too. Honestly, the paint might be too much. This looks sick as it is. And now let's turn on the paint. And this is how it looks. I also have in the compositor, I have a Kuwahara filter, which is pretty subtle, but it let me show you without it. It helps smooth things out a little bit. If you look closely, you can see the resolution, because really each of those little points can hold a color, but basically that's the resolution of your image. It's not an image I'm painting on the sculpt, but it's each little point that holds a color. So you end up with a pretty visibly low resolution, relatively, right? Because this is really high for sculpt, but this is really low for texture. So in order to smooth things out, I have this Kuwahara filter, and it will help keep lines sharp and group colors together, so you get this cool, a little bit more painterly effect, and it hides the resolution, right? So that's why I have the filter. And yeah, with the shadow on, there he is. All finished. He looks happy. I thought it looked a little creepy if he had a slight smile, so that's what I went for. The guy here on the other hand, doesn't look very happy. Let me stand him up so we have a better look. He looks very different when standing. He has a pretty long face, but it's okay. And yeah, as a bonus, I'll show you with, oh yeah, look, the Eevee now has a new ray tracing mode, and you get actual like emission lighting, which you didn't used to have in Eevee. But anyways, here it is with some regular shading. Spin the lights around a little bit as a bonus. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Let me know what you think about this kind of format. If you'd like more videos like this, maybe I'll make them. I can't promise you. Maybe you'll see me in 3 years from now. And yeah, let me know, and stuff like that. You know how it works. Anyway, bye-bye. Thanks for hanging out. Later.